presentation. I'm Madeline. And every night, I still ask the same question. Whose body is this? Have you ever woken up and felt like your body didn't belong to you? Your fingers feel familiar, but your memories don't. If that's ever happened to you, maybe you weren't really asleep. Maybe you were lost. I came to Bodrum alone, not just to escape, but because I had nowhere else to go. I left behind everything rotten in my life and moved into a small white stone house on a quiet hill lined with olive trees. It was peaceful. At first. When I opened the door, I saw dusty bookshelves, a living room left frozen in summer silence. But it was the mirror by the entrance that caught my eye. A cracked square mirror, old and stained, and reflected in it was me. Except it wasn't. I know how it sounds. I looked like myself, but different. Strange, unfamiliar, like I was trying to remember a face I'd never seen before. I'm telling you this because if this ever happens to you, you need to be ready. You need to pray. Have you ever stared at your reflection and not recognized the person staring back? And if you really didn't remember, what if it was never you to begin with? The first night was quiet. Just the soft meow of stray cats, the murmur of waves, and the distant hum of a boat engine. When I laid in bed, I felt safe. But in the morning, I wasn't in bed. I was lying on the cold stone slabs in the garden. My feet were bare, my ankles scratched, and in my hand a burnt match. But I hadn't lit anything the night before. As I walked through the house, everything looked untouched. But something felt off, an itch in the back of my mind. Under the stairs, I found an old trunk. Inside, yellowed letters, faded photographs, and an ID card. The name on it? Elizabeth Monroe. I had never heard that name in my life, but the moment I saw it, I heard a whisper. I'm Elizabeth. I'm here. Have you ever found a name in a house, one that felt too familiar, like it was waiting for you? Or maybe you're slowly becoming someone else. What happened on the third night, I still can't explain. I woke up on the path to the sea, my body glowing in the moonlight. In my hand, an old lantern. In the other, a child's toy. A small, worn-out stuffed bear, half buried in sand. And just ahead, a hole, barely visible. It looked like someone had dug there, as if villagers once came to collect sand, but stopped. The place felt wrong, empty, like a grave. But it wasn't empty, not before. Do you think a sleepwalker could dig a hole that deep against her will and forget she ever did it? That thought haunts me the most. Just 2 blocks away lived an elderly woman named Zarina. One day she waved at me, and when I went to speak with her, she said something strange. There was another woman who lived in that house. She stayed alone. At night, she'd walk down to the sea. And in the morning, she'd dig with her hands. Then Zarina paused and looked me straight in the eyes. One morning, she never woke up. She placed her hand on mine and whispered, "Some houses call for souls like their own, my dear." The night stopped being mine. I would lie in bed, but something called me. I remembered her saying, "If someone calls your name at night, don't look. Don't turn." But I did. I woke with rope marks on my wrists, wet moss on my fingers, and worst of all, someone else's blood under my nails. I found an attic sealed for years, dust-filled crates, and tucked between them, a diary. It belonged to Elizabeth Monroe. Over and over she wrote, "I go out at night, but it's not me. He uses me. In Bodrum, not just the sea speaks, the houses do too. Do you think a house can hold a spirit? Or worse, trap yours? Last night, I broke. I locked the doors, boarded the windows, forced myself to stay awake. But my eyelids grew heavy, and when I opened my eyes, I was standing at the edge of the old well, not in my nightgown, but wearing the same dress from Elizabeth's drawings, in the water. A reflection, but it wasn't me. I left that house. Yes, I made it out, but not all of me. I don't know how this story makes you feel, but I lived it, and it changed me, if you know what I mean. Now every morning I check my feet. Is there dirt? Is there moss under my nails? And sometimes, on the fogged-up bathroom mirror, a name appears, written by a hand that isn't mine. Elizabeth. That summer, I chose to stay alone in one of the old stone houses hidden in the side streets of Bodrum. The tourists had left. Only the sea remained, gently lapping at the shore, and the shadows of evening stretching across sun-cracked cobblestones. The house was small, whitewashed, with 2 stories and wooden windows framed by flower pots. From the balcony, you could see the sea, but mostly you felt the loneliness. The first night, nothing happened. But the second night, I woke up in the living room as if I had never gone to bed. Have you ever opened your eyes and realized you're somewhere you don't remember going? The staircase creaked underfoot. Old marble, cold to the touch. Every step echoed through the house. That second night, I found myself on those stairs. My eyes were open, but my mind was far away. My chest tightened, my heart was racing, and a single thought kept circling. Where am I going? I wasn't wearing my smartwatch. I usually take it off at night. Too much radiation, I had read. Maybe if I had worn it, the vibrations would have woken me. But they didn't, because it wasn't on my wrist. The house was completely dark, but I didn't think to turn on the lights. I just kept going, down the stairs, one step after another. Why? I don't know. All I could hear was the sea, and something else. A high-pitched whisper, far away. The next day, I asked the old woman next door about the house. She paused, then said, "It belonged to a young woman, Claire. She came here alone, stayed in the upstairs room facing the sea. But one night, she walked down the stairs, and at 3 a.m., she went into the water. No one ever saw her again." My skin chilled. The stairs, the silence, the hour, it all matched what I had felt. That woman, Claire? Was she like me? Can a spirit remain in a house long after it's gone? On the third night, I woke up again, but this time, I heard a voice. I don't remember getting out of bed, but I was already halfway down the stairs. The floor beneath me felt like ice. And then, a whisper behind me. "Emily." I froze, turned. No one, but ahead of me, a shadow moved. The outline of a woman, long, black hair, a white nightgown. She descended the stairs in silence. She didn't look back, so I followed. I opened the front door. The moonlight hid the cobblestone path. My feet were bare. A cat darted past and vanished into the night. The wind whispered something I couldn't quite catch. The woman was walking toward the sea. And somehow, I felt like I needed to follow, like her fate was now tied to mine. The stones beneath my feet smelled of seaweed. The sea at night, it smells different, like something unknown is breathing. The moon reflected on the waves, no clear line between the sky and the water. I was standing on that line, and a voice inside me whispered, "Walk." But another voice, deep, steady, human, called out, "Stop, Emily, that's not you." When I opened my eyes again, it was morning. I was lying by the sea, my feet touched the water. No phone, no keys, no memory. But in my mind, still heard her voice. I'm here. Is it Claire? Or something else? She haunted me. Sometimes I hated her for it. Other times, I saw her in myself. She had pale skin, long, straight hair that covered her face. Beautiful in that unsettling, ghost-like way. Too perfect. Too distant. I went back to the house, but I knew I wasn't alone anymore. Even now, I still can't explain it. Did I experience something real? Or was I trapped in a sleepwalker's dream? But I know this. The stairs in that house, they remember the steps of a woman who once walked them in silence. And some nights, around 3 a.m., I hear a voice call my name. In someone else's voice. Emily, if this story touched something in you, write, I'm here in the comments. Let me know I'm not alone. I'm still in Bodrum, but it's no longer home. Every night now I chain myself to my bed. So I won't rise again, so I won't follow her. I hope I never see her again, but somehow, I know I will. Because when the wind lifts a woman's hair by the sea, maybe she's still out there. Maybe she's me. Title suggestion? The basement that called my name, or I thought I moved to Bodrum for peace. But the house had other plans. Narration. My name is Sophie. And before I told this story, I thought I knew who I was. But now I understand. Sometimes you're still dreaming, even when you're wide awake. I moved to Bodrum just a few weeks ago. I was running from Istanbul, looking for peace. The house I found sat at the end of a sloping street, its stone walls hugging the cliffside above the sea. Old wooden shutters, creaking floors. It felt like the past was still whispering inside. But I didn't care. I needed silence. I needed sleep. What I didn't know was that in some places, sleep is more dangerous than staying awake. The first night, a soft breeze played with the white curtain by my window. The scent of salt filled the room, so calming it felt like a lullaby. My bed rested against the cool stone wall, and I drifted into what I thought was a deep sleep. But in the morning, I wasn't in my bed. I was standing at the top of the staircase. The lower floor was supposed to be locked, just a storage room, or so the landlord said. Yet there I was, one hand on the railing, bare feet cold on the stone. My hair clung to my face. My heart pounded in my chest. And the worst part, I had no memory of how I got there. At first, I thought it was just sleepwalking. Maybe I was adjusting. Maybe it would pass. But night after night, it got worse. Each morning, I found myself one step closer to the basement. One night, I even woke up with my hand on the doorknob. A door I didn't know existed. Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own home? Write in the comments. Am I the only one? By day, everything looked normal. I walked the beach, smiled at old women walking their dogs, chatted with vendors at the market. But at night, something changed. There was a voice, a whisper, and it wasn't unconscious anymore. It was calling me. Sophie, come down. One night, I woke up in the basement. I wasn't just sleepwalking. I was watching, as if from the outside. My body moved without me. I stood in the doorway. It wasn't a storage room. There was an unfinished kitchen carved into stone, a rusted chair, and old photographs scattered across the floor. And in the middle of them, photos of me. I had only lived there for 2 weeks, but those pictures, they were older. I tried to run, but my legs, they wouldn't listen. It felt like I was living in a waking dream. And deep down, I started to wonder, what if this house didn't just accept me? What if it chose me? Each night, I went deeper. One time, I heard breathing, cold and stale, coming from a crack in the basement wall, and I knew that breath wasn't mine. Later, at the village cafe, an old man told me something that still haunts me. This place, he said, used to be a women's shelter, but it didn't heal women. It swallowed them. That night, I walked again. My eyes would open, but I wasn't there. I moved like a child, murmuring a name over and over. Abigail. Abigail. I don't know who she was, but I cried for her. I mourned her, like she was part of me. And then I found it. At the very bottom of the basement, hidden behind the stone, there was a hatch. It looked like someone had carved it by hand. Inside was a chest, and inside the chest, a dress. It wasn't mine, but it had my initials. Hespe. My heart stopped. This wasn't just a house, it was a memory. A story I didn't know I was part of. Or maybe a story I had lived before. Was I walking in someone else's footsteps? Or reliving something buried deep in my soul? That night, I sleepwalked for the last time. I don't remember how I got there, but when I opened my eyes, I was standing on the edge of the cliffs, looking out over the dark sea. The moonlight didn't recognize me. Even I didn't recognize me. There was a voice inside me, quiet but clear. I wasn't asleep, I wasn't awake, I was free. If you're still listening, I have a question. Have you ever sleepwalked? Or lived with someone who did? Let me know in the comments. Because sometimes the real nightmares aren't the ones we dream. They're the ones we live, with our eyes open. And please, if you ever wake up at the top of an unfamiliar staircase, don't go down. I'm Emily. This summer, I rented a small stone house in Bodrum. I wanted to escape the noise, turn off my phone, and just be with myself. The house was a few 100 meters above the sea. An old Greek place, whitewashed and covered in bougainvillea. A narrow stone path led to the door. Lemon trees on the left, a towering fig tree on the right. And the only thing that truly belonged to me in that house was silence. But sometimes, silence isn't peace, it's a trap. The first few days were perfect. I'd wake up early, watch Bodrum Castle from my balcony, sip my coffee in the cool breeze, and at night, the stars felt so close, it was like I could reach out and hold one. But everything changed after the fourth night. That night, my body went to bed, but my soul chose to wander. It wasn't a surprise. I had felt it building, like carrying a live wire inside me. A silent weight. I've had this since childhood. I sleepwalk, but it had been years. It had gone quiet until I came to that house. One morning, I woke up with dirt on my feet, mud under the bed, fingerprints outside the kitchen window. I had been outside, asleep. And that's when I realized I wasn't just afraid of sleepwalking. I was afraid of what I'd forget. Have you ever opened your eyes and not known where you were? Looked out the window and thought, is this really my life? That's how I woke up, every single morning. The nights grew heavier. Sleepwalking was familiar. But this was different. Now I was listening, watching, searching, for what? I didn't know. A who? One morning, I noticed the pebbles by the door were scattered, like someone or something had shuffled their feet all night. There was something in the house, but it wasn't a ghost, not a shadow, not a voice. It was a pull, like a magnetic force, invisible, but relentless. It guided me in the dark, even with closed eyes. That pull was drawing me to the basement. There was a small cellar below the house. The key was old and rusty. I'd never opened it. But one morning, the door was ajar. At the bottom of the steps, my bare footprints. I usually avoid basements. They're dusty, filled with cobwebs, always on my too clean list. But I never quite get to it. Yet here I was. I had gone down in my sleep. That night, the air was thick. Every breath was salt, mold, and stone. And then I saw it, a section of the floor that didn't match the rest. A hatch, sealed but different. An entrance, or maybe an invitation. Night after night, I returned to that hatch. Once, I woke up with dirt on my hands, mud under my fingernails, but it hadn't rained, which meant I had gone underground. I started praying before bed. Please, let my eyes stay shut tonight. Please let me sleep without moving. But nothing changed. Have you ever been afraid of your own mind? Felt like someone else was living inside your dreams? Maybe I was never alone in that house. On the 7th night, I found myself in the basement again. But this time, I was awake. I opened the hatch. With my own hands, what I saw inside, I can't fully explain. A small rusted metal chest, covered in dust, like something out of a forgotten fairy tale. Pandora's box. I've always been curious about things like that. Old boxes in basements, hidden stories, secrets waiting to be found. On top of the chest, a single word, remains. Inside, children's clothes, a tiny shoe, and a black and white photograph. A girl in a white dress, her face drawn over. And in that moment, I understood. I wasn't walking alone. Someone else was walking with me. The spirit of that child. She had entered my body, burrowed my feet, used my breath. She was searching for the pieces of her past. One night, I stood in front of the mirror. I was sleepwalking, eyes wide open, but it wasn't me. The expression on my face, it didn't belong to me. It was hers. A child, sad, but determined. She walked through the dark, like she knew the way. But I no longer trusted even myself. Eventually, I closed the chest, sealed the hatch, locked the basement, and threw the key into the sea. I promised myself, never again. No more curiosity, no more exploring what wasn't meant to be found, because too much curiosity can undo you, and too much pride can bury you. But spirits don't care about locks. That summer ended. But I never fully woke up from the nights I lived inside that house. Even now, when the sun sets, my chest tightens before my eyes grow heavy. Because I know, even when I sleep, she doesn't. The little girl inside me is still there. Have you ever woken up with someone else's memory? Have you ever felt that when you sleep, you cease to be yourself? Because I have. And I don't want to be alone in this darkness.